There's death, there's destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live. This is why we need independent media.
Cheers and salutations. We have Larry Sharpe here joining us. Larry, let me ask you something. Did you expect corporate media to go ahead and start launching this huge, massive attack towards third parties? Because I know recently you were on News Nation, and I just had to have you back on the show to discuss that. Dr. Cornel West taxes. Do you care about them? Do you care about his taxes, Larry?
Not at all. And I said it publicly, right? The thing that bothers me is, don't get me wrong, I understand why someone might want to look into someone's background. That makes total sense. I'm not against looking into someone's background, seeing what they've done in the past, and seeing if there's a conflict of interest, right? Perhaps is for example, does he owe money to somebody that, you know, might have some power over him or something like that? This could be things that are important. However, they're not doing any of that. They're just trying to smear Dr. West. And that bothers me. Not because I'm particularly a heavily Cornel West fan. I like the man. I think he's a good man. I think he's an honest broker. I think he honestly wants to fix things 100%. I do believe that. But more importantly, what the establishment will always do is go out of its way to somehow delegitimize someone, somehow attack them, call them a name. And the Daily Beast went out of their way to do a check on him to find out this information. Why? Because he's actually having impact. And that's the issue. If nobody was paying attention to him, nobody would care. They only care because someone's paying attention. They're now getting afraid. A third party might have impact. To be forward, do I believe that Dr. West is going to win this thing? I don't. Now, he might. You never know. I don't want to say you never know. It could happen. But I think the odds are severely stacked up against him. However, can he have impact? We see that already. We see that he's talking about things that other people aren't talking about. We see it with even the fringe, I would say fringe candidates, meaning non-mainstream candidates in the two major parties. You see it with RFK Jr. and Vivek. Even them, they are moving the conversation because the country is absolutely ready for something else. The average American doesn't know what that something else is, but they know it's not working, right? What's happening now is not working. They're sure of that. And when guys like Dr. West come up and start talking about real issues, real things, people go, wait a minute. That's not what the other guys are talking about. Maybe this guy has something. And that makes them afraid. Well, so yes, I don't care about his tax debt. I care about what it's going to do for our country.
You know, it is interesting though, because because sitting through that entire News Nation segment, it's like, well, you against obviously the corporate hack, and I know I called the Democratic pundit there, Mr. Potato Head knockoff, but nonetheless, you know, when you have a situation where you have the media doing these onslaught attacks, smear after smear after smear, it does lead one to wonder. There is fear in the environment. I mean, let's look at the Biden-Harris administration right now. Everyone is saying that the economy is doing great, that the economy is working on all cylinders. But
that's what they say.
That is what they say. But when okay, you're in New York City. I live in Chicago. And I know for a fact that either owning a home or even, dare I say it, renting an apartment, it costs an arm and a leg.
Insane.
Now, obviously in New York City, there's also talk about, again, raising up the rent and removing any protections for homeowners and renters. And so when you witness this stuff happening in your city, because I know New York City is getting hit pretty hard with the 100% increase in prices, why do you think that the Democrats are constantly trying to put on this message of everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine? Because even sometimes when I'm reading these articles, somebody has to be being paid a lot of money just to straight up lie to people in order to make them feel good. I mean, there's a whole bunch of copium.
You put a lot out there, Kit. Let me try to grab a couple of those things. You threw a lot at me. Let me try to see if I can get each of those. The first one was when I was on News Nation. You're right. All three of those people were literally thinking I was insane. The left and the right and the pundit, all three were like, but taxes. But clearly he's a bad guy, but taxes. When literally both of the front runners on the left and right now, meaning the Democrat and Republican, I shouldn't say left and right, it's not really accurate. The Democrat and Republican are both corporatists. The front runner of both corporatist party literally either have been impeached or may be impeached. Literally, that's that. They're already looking at being criminals. Trump is already looking at is already indicted. Who knows what's going to happen with Biden and or his son? Who knows? And we're worried about whether or not Cornel West has tax liens or not. So yes, that's number one. Number two, the part you brought about New York City and Chicago. Dude, our cities are dying. I know you know it. You see it. I see it too. New York City is under 8 million. We haven't been under 8 million in decades. People are leaving the city left and right. You've seen our problem with homeless. You've seen our problem with migrants. And the problem that I think, this is, you said money, and you are correct. And let me explain how it works for some people. You probably get this. In fact, I'm sure you get this. Others, your audience may not. This is actually a migrant industrial complex. Yes, I know it sounds trite when I say industrial complex, but it is. The government creates industrial complexes out of everything. So what happens is now people are being paid by the federal governments to take in migrants. People were being paid to take in homeless. Any problem we have, the government creates an industrial complex. There was a homeless industrial complex. Hotels are being paid hundreds of dollars per night. It was $125 per night, if not mistaken, in New York City to take homeless people. So now for every room I have open, it's now filled. Well, wow, what a gift to hotels. That's amazing. And most hotels, as you know, are now bought by massive companies, right? Massive companies own, like everything's by Wyndham or by Marriott. The massive holding companies own most of these hotels. So it's a gift to these massive companies. Now they put migrants in it, and now the federal government stepped in for even more money. You've probably heard stories about homeless who are being kicked out and migrants being put in. It's not because they care about the homeless or the migrants. They care about the cash coming from the federal government. And you see it now in New York City. Am I against, to be forward, am I against the city being a sanctuary city?
Right.
If a city wants to be a sanctuary city, look, I'm a libertarian. Do you? If you think it's the right answer, 100%, I'm not against immigration. What I'm against is not having a plan for these people and then going to the federal government to make money and now creating a system to where it makes sense for the people getting the money to not house the migrants, to not house the homeless, because then I keep getting my money in my hotels. Now they're going to start giving it to Airbnbs and homes. So you'll be paying people to this. So they're making an incentive to not fix the problem. That is my issue. So you are correct. People have been paid a lot of money to make sure problems don't get solved, to make sure the cities still get crushed, and they're getting paid for it, mostly by the federal government, but also by some of the big interests.
You know what I find interesting, especially in my city, because we have Brandon Johnson, and I I am not a fan of his policies. Neither of the two candidates that were running it for office for Chicago mayor were that impressive. But perhaps I'll give my full thoughts of the Chicago mayoral race for another time, or maybe when I'm on your show or something like that. But when I see migrants in front of the Chicago Police Department, there's still camps and not sanctuaries, but areas in which the refugees are at, and there's no plan. There's also other similar situations taking place here, similar to New York, happening here in Chicago. There has to be a long-term solution, and unfortunately, I think the term sanctuary city, and this is something that the Democrats have taken as their own, it was just more feel-good points just to, I guess, get one over on Trump, who still lives rent-free in people's heads. And
yes, absolutely, yes.
And I you know, while we're here, because I mean, it's easy for us to be talking about third parties all day. I mean, because at the end of the day, I'm going to vote third party. That's what I'm going to do, and that's why I encourage my audience to do the same thing too. But when I look at Trump and all these indictments that are hitting him and coming after him over and over again, I keep on wondering, Democrats, you are trying to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I got to censor myself just a little bit because of YouTube's guidelines, whatever. I hate those guidelines. But nonetheless, they're doing all this. They're trying to hold him back, or at least kick him off the election trail. And it's not going to work.
You heard what I said on News Nation. The average Democrat wants Trump in jail yesterday. They hate him. You are right. He lives rent-free in their head all the time. He is the ultimate orange boogeyman. He is the one. But now elite Democrats know this. They don't want Trump in jail. What they want is Trump in trouble while he's running. So he has to spend time and money in court cases, in court this, in court that. And he's not out there doing what Trump does best. And be forward, I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not voting for Trump. but I have eyes and I know what the guy's good at. He's good at getting in front of people and rousing them and ripping a rabble rouser. That's his skill set. That's what he's good at. And if he's doing that, he might win this damn thing. But if he's in court, he won't win this damn thing because he won't be rabble-rising. He'll be sitting in court someplace. And Democrats know that, and that's their goal. Elite Democrats know that, and their goal is to make him be as broken as possible because they believe, and I'm not saying they're right in this, Kit, because you may push back on this, but I'm telling you what I think they believe. They believe that a wounded Trump is their best chance for Biden to win. And if they can say the economy is good, they're hoping that Democrats will say, well, maybe I'm the exception, so everyone else is doing fine. I'll be doing fine. We just got to stop Trump. If we just stop Trump, it'll be okay. I believe that is the elite Democrat strategy.
You know, I hear that strategy, and I agree that it's what they're trying to do, but I don't think that that's the solution that's going to happen to Trump. I think every time Trump is in the court, I think I'm gonna quote Chris Rock here and just say, every time you put Trump in jail or put him in a courtroom, you're going to make him more popular. I think in many ways this reaffirms his supporters base. Like, oh, look, they keep on going after Trump. I mean, that just because he's not on the debate trail, that's not going to stop him, because he's got access to Truth Social, and he has supporters on Twitter that will screenshot anything that he posts on Truth Social and put it on Twitter. That just feeds the machine of his base, because unlike Bernie Sanders, who abandoned his political movement and dismantled his political movement, Trump kept it together. And I got some pushback from people saying, well, Trump doesn't respect his followers. He doesn't do this or that. Well, okay. Trump is a person. He's a politician, and he's playing a manipulative game just like anybody else.
Sure. Agreed.
However, I mean, at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words, and he's able to put on a good act to make it perceived that he cares about his followers. And maybe he does because he wants to get back into power. But I see all this attempt to take him off the trail as just as further boosting up his image. Anytime Trump is in front of the cameras, even if it's in a courtroom, he capitalizes on it. Your thoughts?
True. Look, again, I'm with you. I'm voting third party. But I still have eyeballs. Like, I can still see things. And Trump is a talented orator. He knows how to roust people and get them excited. That's what he does well, and he'll do it in the courtroom too. I think you're right. That's what he does. It's hard to stop that man because he has no shame. He's just going to move forward. But I do want to touch this third party piece for a second.
Go ahead.
And people might say, Larry, come on, you're wasting your time. And I hear it all the time. Don't vote third party. The two-party system is all we have. And, either stop the libs and vote Trump, or stop Trump and vote, Democrat, whatever. They always tell me these two. But here's the thing to remember. Bush got us Obama. Obama got us Trump. Trump got us Biden. Nobody's winning here but them. All we're doing is swapping bad for bad for bad for bad. And we feel better because our side, if we're more blue than red, we feel good when the blue wins. If more red than blue, we feel better when the red wins. But nothing actually changes. If we actually vote third party, if we actually get someone like Dr. West or whomever, but I'll say Dr. West, sure. We get him to pull 5, 6, 8%. Just that. He doesn't win. He pulls 5, 6, 8%. It forces people to have to look at what he's talking about. It makes him get back on TV every day. It makes him talk about the issues that matter. He can keep going. We can move it to where, even though he may not win the presidency, there'll be somebody local who will pick up what he's talking about, and he'll start win. There'll be a city council who will win. There'll be a mayor who will win. There'll be a governor who will win. That will happen from this. We can't start change until we bring it to. I say all the time about libertarians. I say libertarians are better left on social issues than Democrats, and better right in economic issues than Republicans. If you're a Republican who likes economic issues, or a Democrat likes social issues, having a libertarian in the conversation moves the conversation in your direction, even if we lose. Because now you have to have that conversation, because we will talk about it.
Now, let me ask you this, because, again, there's one thing that I want to be clarified here. And, I've said this on my show, too, but I want to get your perspective, because I've been seeing these media attacks towards Green Party, libertarians, Ross Perot, who was neither. He was his own party.
Right.
But Ralph Nader, Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, and now Dr. Cornel West. What do all five of these people have in common? They have been hit and attacked and smeared and slandered by corporate media because, number one, they're saying that they were spoiler candidates and that they stole votes.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on how third parties are being viewed as spoilers and also stealing votes? Because how can you spoil something that's rotten, and how can you steal something that didn't even belong to you?
I like that. But you just said that, oh, well, Donald Trump doesn't respect his voters. None of the establishment does, because they assume that they already own you. Literally, that statement that you just said that they always use says the establishment believes they own you already. How dare you steal my slaves? Why would you steal my slaves? They're my slaves, not your slaves. So, yes, that's what they're saying. And that's exactly right. It is important that we understand, and anyone understands, your vote is for you. But I'm gonna show you how it's not true. I'm gonna give you actual data. When I got sued last year off the ballot by the Republicans that I couldn't go on, I told the court more than once. I did 3-4 different appeals. I said about 500,000 New Yorkers, every single cycle, every 2 years, vote third party, independent party. And they know when they cast that vote that the odds of that person winning are slim to none. They're aware of it and they still vote. So why would they do this? And this is in my oral and written argument to the court. I said, why would they do this? Because it is political speech. They are saying that I do not agree with these two people. They're not staying home saying, I don't care about the system. They're actually going out and voting third party. They're saying, I care about the system, and this is unacceptable. This is First Amendment right, freedom of speech. 500,000 people do that every single time, no matter who's on. No matter who's on. That's New York State. And last year was the first time in 80 years there was not an independent candidate on the ballot for governor in New York State. And guess how many less people voted than last time? 500,000. Those people stayed home. No votes are stolen. They're not going to vote. They give up. They walk away. The stolen vote's not a thing. They don't vote. Gary Johnson said it perfectly. When they asked him in 2016, they said, okay, if you had to, right? If you had to, who'd you rather vote for, Trump or Hillary? And he said, gun to the head. They said, yeah, gun to the head. He said, pull the trigger.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because what I see in the articles too, they keep saying that Dr. Jill Stein and Ralph Nader stole votes, and that if they didn't run, Greens would vote Democrat. Well, what makes you think those Democrats would, those Greens would vote for Democrats? And at the same time too, they bring up Gary Johnson, and I'm thinking, well, wait, Gary Johnson and the Libertarians in 2016 got, I believe, 3.1% of the vote after everything was all tallied up. So they did better than Dr. Jill Stein did. And I brought this up, even if the Libertarian voters went to Hillary, it still wouldn't change anything. And then number two, what makes you think those Libertarians would vote for Hillary or even Trump? They would stay home. All these people would stay home.
Yes.
And 50% of the population is identifying itself as independent. And the thing is, what I'm wondering is what it's going to take to mobilize the silent majority, the 50%, because you have 25% of the population that votes Democrat, you have 25% of the population that votes Republican, and then you got 50% of the population that is either independent or does not want to engage in electoral politics, period. Period. How do you mobilize that? Because I know that there are so many laws and rules and regulations at the state level and federal level that prohibit the choice of having a third-party candidate to vote for.
This is why when people were like, Larry, you're a libertarian, why the hell would you support Dr. West? Because he gives hope. Hope is the key, Kit. The people are not voting because they don't think it matters. They're like, why bother? I'd rather stay home and watch Netflix. I'll go to work that day. I'll play video games. Why should I bother? Why should I bother voting? It doesn't make any difference. I'd rather be doing something else, right? If they get hope, then they'll actually step up. They talk about revolutions, right? When does a revolution happen? When do people fight back, right? How does that get so bad to people fight back? Two things. It must be bad and people must see hope. If it's just bad, they just give up. It's called learned helplessness. It's actually an actual term. It's called learned helplessness. They stop. It doesn't matter. But when they see hope, someone like, and I think the difference between what Jill Stein did, what Gary Johnson did, why they do Jill Stein. Gary Johnson mobilized a bunch of people who were already libertarian. Don't get me wrong, he got some new people in too. Jill Stein got some people who weren't voting. That's why they're worried more about Jill Stein than Gary Johnson. that makes any sense.
Right.
I love Gary Johnson. I voted for him in 2012 and 2016. I still love the man. I would do it again if he ran again. I love the man. However, being forward, he didn't motivate a lot of new people to come in. If that makes any sense, right? You got people who are libertarian leaning. They believe, and I don't have no data. I'm telling you their belief. Their belief is Jill Stein got people who had checked out to come in. Dr. West is getting people who checked out to come in. That is the fear. That's why they must destroy him. If we find somebody who will do what you said, provide that hope so that people who've given up decide, you know what, I'm coming in. I haven't voted in whatever 10 years. I'm a vote. This West guy, yeah, I like what he's saying. I'm gonna come in. I'm a vote. If that happens, they will go nuts. This is one of the reasons why they're attacking RFK Jr. because RFK Jr. is doing the same thing. He's also moving different people to come back in and go, wait a minute, this guy, he's moving people to come in. That's why they're scared of him too. And also be forward on the outskirts, Vivek. Vivek is bringing in some young people as he's rapping his Eminem raps and stuff. He's doing that stuff, right? But that they're afraid that he may bring in new people, and that they want to push away the new people idea.
Okay, so here's the thing with RFK Jr. I see the appeal. My criticism of RFK Jr. and his campaign is you're running in a rigged game. The DNC, it's and I mean this is no disrespect, but it's after what I saw firsthand in 2016 and in 2020, what they did to Bernie Sanders and later on to Tulsi and Andrew Yang, you know, and even Bernie again in 2020. You're running in something where even if in the off case scenario where RFK Jr. were to win the nomination, the DNC legally has the power to say, I don't accept the results.
Right.
And I make a controversial statement here saying that Vivek would have a better chance of bringing more people into the Republican primary because the Republican primary is more democratic. Now, again, how I feel about both parties are inherently corrupt. Maybe I would give more of a nod of respect to RFK Jr. if he actually did run independent. But if you're running in the Democratic Party and then you make the statement of, I want to bring my party back or return it back to, it never was what it was. It never was this party that somehow he's imagining. I mean, because again, the DNC is just that, a warmongering, corporatist Wall Street party. I think in many ways, I think in many ways, what you have to have is somebody like West to build the infrastructure. And this is something I've asked libertarians and Greens. Okay, you've got to get a certain amount of votes to be recognized. Now, I know in a few states already, the Libertarian Party is recognized at the state level, but it's one thing to be recognized at the state level. You have to have that recognition at the national level because what comes after? Because ideally, and this is something I want to see, Greens, Libertarians to get above 8% in the national election. I know it's a high number to shoot for, but so that they're recognized at the national level. But then what comes next? Because there has to be that conversation amongst libertarians and Greens. And then I wanted you to speak on behalf of libertarians if you've ever had that conversation. Okay, let's say we get above 5%. Let's say we get 8% or 10% of the vote in the national election. What comes the day after tomorrow? How are we going to be building this thing? Because now we're recognized. What do we do then? And then what? That's the thing I'm
Two pieces
wondering.
I'll bring up a couple of them. Number one, you know that I am all about reaching out. Of all the, I guess, popular libertarians in the country, there aren't that many of us, but there are a couple of us. And of us, I reach out more than I think anybody else does. I was the only candidate last year who was endorsed by the Forward Party. I've reached out to the Greens. We're actually suing together. The Greens and the Libertarians are suing together in New York State to try to change the ballot access laws. Howie Hawkins is my friend. We're both, just like you, we're all three Marines, right? So we all get that. And if you knew Howie Hawkins was a Marine, but yes, him too.
No, I didn't know that.
Yep, absolutely. So we are friends. I don't want to fight, even though we disagree. Howie and I disagree on many things, but we know the system's broken and we need allies to fix the system first. And the difference between what even you and I talk, when me and Howie talk, we don't go, oh, you're a bad person because you're not me. We say, we're trying to move shit forward. Excuse my language, I'm going to get you canceled. We're trying to move stuff forward.
It's fine. If one would swear words, fine. I don't care. I don't care.
We're trying to move stuff forward. Let's try to make things better. If we don't fix the system, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if we don't fix the system. So I think that's an important aspect. Now, the other part you brought up, what's next? If we get 5 or 8%, if you remember what I said when I talked about Dr. West, if he does well, what he does is he inspires the local people to actually run and to make change. I did this in 2018. I practiced what I preach. In 2018, when I was able to make ballot access and make the Libertarian Party an actual recognized party in New York State, I crossed the state again in 2019, supporting local candidates. We had 107 local victories in New York State Libertarians. They were all local. They were like city board, city council. They were all local. But we had 107 Libertarians elected in New York State in 2019. And then 2020, the state said, destroy my party. Here's my answer if Dr. West gets his 8%. I hope he does. He gets that. He now takes that infrastructure, says, look at what I did. Newly brought in youngsters and old school people who actually want to jump back in again. Time to start running. Time to start helping. The problem is, I'm sure you see this in third party world. Donor burnout, volunteer burnout, candidate burnout. It's real. We get tired. We get burned out. But then we see somebody do something great. We go, I'm back in. Okay, I'm not burned out. I'll do it. I'll get back out again. I'll do it again. When we see some type of success, that's what that 5 to 8% does, Kit. It motivates people at the local level to go, I'm back in, and make some change.
Well, you know, what I found interesting, especially in 2022, the midterm, I brought this up on your show, I think, once, where the Illinois Libertarian Party, I interviewed one of their organizers, and I've known him since we started way back in 2017. And I remember his words before the final day of the election, and that was he was saying, we're going to get all the Libertarians on most or all the ballots here in the state of Illinois. And I looked at him in the eye and I said, you know what, if you pull that off, I will vote for all the third-party candidates.
There we go. Yes.
And here's the thing: for the most part, the Libertarians were successful. So as soon as I saw that with my own two eyes, I in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, you sure showed me. And obviously, the Libertarians were on there. So I want to be consistent. I voted third party. There was one socialist group that was there, and also Greens that they got my vote in, that the Libertarians weren't on those ballots. So, voting third party is fundamentally important. And yes, there is voter burnout, because even in Illinois, the Illinois Green Party was recognized for a time as another party, and then they dropped the ball. So voter burnout, volunteer burnout, donor burnout is a real thing. And that is something that I think we as independent media also have to help up and promote, because if third parties, and I'm going to include Libertarians and Greens both together on this, if they are both successful in doing so, I think it's a social obligation of platforms like yourself, mine, everyone, to say, okay, here's another option, because you can't reform the DNC or the RNC. And I think you do have a point of, okay, there could be enthusiasm, but there has to be, again, the ongoing commitment to fight. Yes. And my audience is I had one of my audience members send me a super chat, and they wanted to get your thoughts of RFK Jr. Saying some kind words about Dr. Cornel West. And of course, what do you think RFK Jr.'s overall angle is within the Democratic Party? I know we're a little bit off subject, but I saw a few questions.
No, I met RFK 2 months ago, last month in Freedom Fest in Memphis.
Okay.
I met him. I talked to him. Absolutely. I'll tell you what his plan is. I think it's obvious. I don't think I'm talking out of turn. It's actually not a bad plan. One of the reasons why RFK is pushing third parties so much is he realizes third parties don't have a primary. They don't have a primary. So he's reaching out to like Libertarians and Greens and such to say, look, you don't have a primary. Since you don't have a primary, in the primary, vote for me. It's actually a smart move. His hope is he'll get all the Greens, all Libertarians, all the third party people who don't have a primary. In open primary states, you just go vote for him. And in non-open primary states, change your registration to Democrat for the primary to vote for him, and then vote whatever you want in the general election. That's actually not a bad plan. That's what he's trying to do. It's actually a good plan. And I got to tell you, a lot of Libertarians like RFK Jr. A lot do.
I could see the appeal.
He's much more popular than I thought he'd be. He is. So there are a lot of Libertarians who are actually doing that. They are literally changing their registration to Democrat because there's no Libertarian primary. We select our candidate at a convention in May. There's no primary for us. So they can just go vote for him and still vote for a Libertarian candidate in May. So that's his plan.
Real quick. So the Libertarian convention is going to be in May for when you guys pick who your candidate will
Correct.
be. Where will that be located? Actually, will it be
DC?
DC? Oh, Washington D.C. Okay, so
Yep.
will it be just strictly an online event, or will it be like on the ground
No,
location?
it's in person. It's in
Okay,
person.
wow. All right, all
Yes.
right. Wow. I would like to know a little bit more about that. We have the convention that's going to be happening here in August here in Chicago, so I would definitely like to collaborate with you and find out
100%.
who the overall nominee will be for the Libertarian Party and see.
There are four people who are running right now, and they'll be selected. It's Lars Mapstead out of California, Michael Termott out of Virginia, Chase Oliver out of Georgia, and I forgot where Joshua Smith is out of. He was out of Oregon at one point, but Joshua Smith is the fourth one. So there are four people who are running right now. The most popular is Chase Oliver because some of your audience may remember there was a runoff in Georgia for the Senate runoff. He was the third party quote unquote spoiler who caused the runoff with the Herschel Walker. That was him. So he's the most popular. The best funded is Lars Mapstead. He's a tech guy out of Northern California, out of the the tech world. So he made a lot of money there. So he's the best funded. So my guess is probably one of those two will be the nominee because one's very popular and one's heavily funded. The odds are one of those two.
Well, you know what? I would like to see a list of some of those candidates. So if you can, let's private message me later on tonight or this week, and I would like to see if I can get some of these candidates on the show because I've already had Dr. Cornel West on, and he told me why he's running. Hopefully, I get to have him back on very soon, sometime in September. But yeah, I think it's very important that we give a platform to third parties. And I know you've taken a lot of time out of your day to be on our show. Obviously, there's a time difference because you're in New York State. But I think as a final note, go ahead.
I did mess up with our timing. I apologize on our timing. It's all good. Early, my mistake.
No, it's all good. It's all good because I always do the super show on Thursdays. Every day is a super show here for Hard Media. So, but nonetheless, I want to give you the final word in regards to two things. Number one, what is your overall thought on the intensification of the attacks that we're seeing by the media towards third parties? Do you think it's going to get worse, or you think it's just going to become clownish? And then number two, do you have any events or programs that are going to be happening later on this week or this month in regards to your content, your show, the Larry Sharpe Show? I encourage everyone to check it out. It's important to see different perspectives and points of view. So go ahead and take the floor, Larry.
First thing, I'm going to be doing a ballot access symposium this Saturday, the 19th in DC. So Fantastic. Yes, we'll have people. Yes, so I'll be there. It's 1 p.m. I will post it on my YouTube page. Not my YouTube. I'll post it on my Facebook page and on my Twitter account coming up later on today. I will post it then. But yes, I'll be doing that. It should be amazing. There's a bunch of people going to be there from different parties talking about ballot access. So that's one. The second thing is I am actually, it's going to sound crazy, very happy with all the attacks on the third party candidates. I am. Why am I happy? Two reasons. One, the attacks actually make us valid, and they don't know that. The left-right paradigm thinks the only way to win is to attack. So that's all they do is attack. That's all they know is left-right paradigm. But when they attack us, they make us valid. They make us real. And it shows me they're actually scared because we're growing. Forward Party and No Labels. No Labels is not, in my view, is just a corporate party. Forward Party.
Thank you.
Just corporate party. Yes. No Labels actually should be called Two Labels because it's the same two labels. That's what it should be called, right? Forward Party, I don't know what they're going to become. I think they're in limbo right now. I don't know what they're going to become. I think they have potential to go either way, become completely corporate or to become something brand new. I think they're feeling themselves out. I'm not sure they know. So I have reserved judgment on Forward. No Labels is a corporate party. Forward, I'm not sure yet. But the fact that they exist is a great thing because that means the third party is starting to grow. And that's what I want. Cornel West, 10 years ago, doesn't even get anything. Now people are scared of him. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad people are fighting. I'm glad they're upset. It makes us valid. It shows that, you know what? Our time is coming. So my opinion is it's going to get worse because they don't know any better. And it's good. Both.
Fantastic. All right. Well, actually, and here's another thing too, Dad, to your point. I'm really excited for the fact that all corporate media is trying to smear third parties, because again, it gives me more ammunition to drag them in the dirt. And let's face it, corporate media is a dying brand. And look, I'm just going to say this too. You're a better person than me. How you sat through that News Nation, because I probably would have snapped at all three of those bastards. Hey, listen, I have to keep it real. I know for a fact I do have sometimes a little bit of an anger issue, and I'd be snapping at all three of those people, because it's just.
I gotta tell you though, sometimes I have the opposite. Right there's many times when I'm you know me, I try my best to keep it calm, to keep people together, to not piss them off. I try. Sometimes I wish I had more fire. Sometimes I wish I was a bit more aggressive. When I go back and look at it, go, you know what? I should have pushed back. I should have been more forward. I should have done more stuff. And so I have the opposite issue. I sometimes come across as too soft or not aggressive enough, because I'm trying to keep together. I want to come back. I want to keep going. I have the opposite problem.
Oh, well, hey, you know what? Well, maybe next time if they have a News Nation, maybe you and me could be tag team partners and go 3D. Yeah, go 3D on the entire. I had to bring in the Dudley Boys reference. Devon, get the tables. But there we go. Anyways, nonetheless, folks, give it up for Larry Sharpe. Please check out his YouTube channel, The Larry Sharpe Show. It's a fantastic show, great content. He has a lot of people with different political views and perspectives on there. And look, I believe that we should have different perspectives, ideals, and I want to be in a room where people can challenge my perspective and I could hear their thoughts and how they view certain social issues, policies, and so much more. So nonetheless, Larry Sharpe, thank you so much for being on Hard Lens Media. We're going to continue on with the rest of the main show. Larry, take care, and I hope you have a great day, my friend.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Land of the free, and you'll know us by the trail of dead. It's just one more world war to complete the set. When you live by the pike, you die by the pith. You die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth, or crying divine epithets and pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. Well, I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense of faltering senses and altered events. Like hunted ain't a hearse, it's a reaper's stretch. Ah, how sweet, she said. Bunch of hordes in the street like it's Evil Dead. Where the thin blue line meets razor's edge. And where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stomps each finger and watches you fall to your death and drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder who gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections, step by step, till the next election, when it's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. That's harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Maybe that's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen, being guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths of much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look up at the shine of the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the Heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, and then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. And I hope all the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID for boosting their boosters and doing their part are now equally thrilled to be starstruck martyrs. All laid in a government grave with anonymous markers, like you're back from the carvers and off to the splicer. You're the very first wave to be slain in the war against Pfizer. That 100 years war against Pfizer. They are thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from those inhuman misers. who all sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profit for Kaiser. Still, the Dems want you nicer. Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. Yeah, they all want you graciously starving in silence. You will speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binders. All bled, bone dry, then fed to the grinder. Our headstones line each step as reminders. That's a lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Workers bled, bone dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. Fed by the fed to the grinder. Now the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsad, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, and it dines on the dead. Now the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. And the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, bleeds you dry, then dines on the dead. The fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. The fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your mind, that it grinds yourself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led.